This episode of WDW Today is being sponsored by MEI and Mouse Fan Travel. And if you're planning a trip to Walt Disney World, Disneyland, Disney Cruise Line, wherever you're going that happens to be a Disney destination, MEI and Mouse Fan Travel can help you plan that perfect trip. They've got travel agents with experience to pretty much all of the Disney destinations that are out there. So check them out right now on their website at mousefantravel.com.
Bringing the world to your world, this is Walt Disney World Today. Here are Mike Scopa, Len Testa, Mike Newell, and your host, Matt Hochberg.
It's Wednesday, April 27th, 2011, and this is episode 869 of WDW Today. I'm Matt Hochberg of StudioCentral.com. Joining me on today's show is Mike Scopa, a senior feature writer and blogger for AllEars.net. Welcome, Mike.
Besides, it's not going to rain today. My lumbago is not acting up.
The Carousel of Progress. Did you know that the Carousel of Progress just had its birthday the other day?
Really? How old is it? 64, right? 64?
Right, 64. So I was told there'd be no
50
math.
something?
It's 50.
50, almost.
5. 7.
What's the date of its birthday?
Yeah.
1964. It was born.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. It's old.
I know someone who was born in 1964, and that person will be 47 this year. So
that's better.
There you go.
Were they born in the Carousel of Progress? Because that'd be a cool story.
Give him a lefty
that's my
big
next
lug.
blog.
Also joining on today's show is Mike Newell of Mouse World Radio. And Mike,
Yes.
I can't wait for the comments about our math skills in today's episode.
Well, you know what? I don't mind so much because I'm terrible in math, but Fred is here,
Oh, yeah. I'm going to get it.
and his name is StatsWiz. So
I know. And I suck at math. Go figure.
I was told there would be no math.
see, Fred, you need to make an app for that.
Not for that. Yeah, I should.
And joining us is our master statistician for touringplans.com. That's Fred Hazelton. Welcome to the show, Fred.
MathWiz.
Thank you, Matt.
Math whiz. That's right.
Yeah, I think that app is actually already on my phone. It's called a calculator. It's doing very well. But it's
No,
free.
it's Canadian math, so
Oh,
it's
Oh, that's right. It's liters or something like that, right? How many liters is Carousel of Progress?
I'll tell you what, Canadian dollar is taking over.
Yeah.
We're up about 7 cents. All the Canadians are rushing across the border to shop for no reason, just to spend money down there.
That's. I think Chantel was lying to you. She just wanted to go shopping with your money. Oh wait, yeah,
absolutely.
Fred. It's a great value. I have to.
Such
You'd be
a
stupid
bargain.
not to spend $1,000 down there.
And also joining us on today's show is Emily Westoff, the general manager of Baby Cakes NYC, which is located at Downtown Disney. Welcome back to the show, Emily.
Thanks for having me on again.
Absolutely. And today's show is Wednesday, and we're answering your listener questions. I know we've been answering some listener questions in the past, but we're actually supposed to be answering listener questions on today's show. And we'll be starting our first email with an email from Donald, who writes, after making all our plans and trying to get everyone's vacations made, we've discovered we're going during Easter week. Our crowd's still expected to be high since spring break is over. Now, I know, Fred, we're in Easter week right now. So, what are the crowds like?
Crazy busy.
Really, even though that Easter's really late this year?
Easter, yeah. I mean, the thing about by far the toughest time of the year to predict is Easter because it moves around and it coincides with spring break some years and whatnot. But the days surrounding Easter, like if you're talking about if they're arriving today or yesterday and spending the entire week, probably going to be okay. Usually we say by about the Wednesday or Thursday after Easter, the crowds are going to, move away from sort of the capacity levels, the 9s and 10s, to something more reasonable, like a 7 or 8 on our scale. Still going to be busy, but not as busy as the previous week. Okay. But yeah, next to Christmas, Easter is one of the busiest times of the year.
Wow! Did you guys see?
I just say I was in Epcot yesterday, and I was expecting it to be crazy busy, and it really wasn't bad at all. The crowds were actually pretty light. There was Spaceship Earth was walk on. I guess it usually is, but I don't know, Soarin' had a 40 or 50 minute wait, which isn't very bad for 5 o'clock on a Monday.
Yeah,
that's pretty good. Yeah, that usually, Epcot tends to handle the crowds a little bit better than any other parks anyway. But yeah, we're starting to see that sort of the Easter crowds are leaving the the regular size crowds.
You know, what's interesting is, speaking of Easter, Disney launched for this Easter a special Twitter account that was supposed to tweet out useful tips and information regarding for people who are going down on Easter week. And I don't know about you guys, but I thought it was the worst Twitter account I've ever seen, because they tweeted out just useless information like, did you know there's a tip board in all the parks where you can go check what the wait times are? My favorite, though, was they mentioned that there are indoor attractions where you can go to when it gets a little too hot. So
Yeah, I saw that.
it was just awful. They really dropped the ball with that. I thought it was totally useless in terms of people going down for Easter, but just thought I'd throw that out there. Next email's from Tim, who writes, "Greetings, WDW Today Disney geeks and random special guest." Ooh, that's you, Emily.
Awesome.
When we were in Walt Disney World in March, the Enchanted Tiki Room was closed. Do you know why it's currently closed? Do you know when it's scheduled to open back up? We're going back to the Walt Disney World in October 2011, and I'm wondering if it'll be open again.
It was fired. Well,
It was actually, there was a fire in there in the attraction, and it closed. And it's been closed ever since. That was back in, when was that fire?
I think it was February, maybe. Late January, February, maybe.
It's been a while. I mean, it wasn't, evidently it was not just a, little quickie, so to speak, but it was it was quite a little fire. And there's been rumors now that they're taking a while because they're actually getting rid of the whole under new management and going back to the original Tiki Room. So no more Iago, no more Zazu.
Oh, thank God.
Maybe it's wishful thinking, but that's the rumor, so to speak. Fred, have you heard any reopening schedule for that?
No, I haven't heard anything about when that's expected to reopen. Not sure.
Yeah, well, you have to keep your eye out for it, and check the usual rumor boards and websites for that information. Next email is from Luke Hefner of Rome City, Indiana. Wanted to comment on episode 864 about things to see at Downtown Disney. A couple of comments I wanted to add. First of all, while Ghirardelli has good samples, the best part of the shop is their ice cream. The chocolate dip cones are amazing and freshly made. In fact, you can watch them be made in one of the side windows. I can't recommend the Java chip enough. Another thing you left off, probably intentionally, is the Rainforest Cafe. I know the food can be bad to hit or miss, but one thing we really like to do is order an appetizer and drink so we can enjoy the fun atmosphere. We've often done the same thing with Planet Hollywood and T-Rex. Even if the food is subpar, there's still a great way to enjoy these fun and well-themed restaurants. Combine that with Ghirardelli, and you have a good evening in my book. Thanks for all you do. Very good. Thanks for the comments, Luke. Appreciate it. Next email is from Bill Ritchie of Michigan, Indiana. Matt, Mike, Len, and the Fabulous Annette, thanks to the great podcast. Keep up the awesome job you guys are doing. My question is for Len, but he must mean Fred, obviously, right, Fred?
Of course.
Of course.
Len, Fred. Yeah.
We're often confused.
My question, what do the revised crowd calendar numbers actually represent? We're going down to Walt Disney World at the beginning of October for food and wine, and I noticed a couple of the days listed as ones. I know this means the lowest expected crowds, but what kind of wait times does a one actually mean?
This is a great question, and we get this a lot, and it's something that we kind of struggle with a little bit when presenting the calendar. The crowd calendar itself is meant to rank all of the days at Walt Disney World. So the simplest form is that one means you're in the bottom group of all the days that you could possibly go. What it doesn't mean is that there's going to be nobody else there, and that you're going to have the whole park to yourself. Even on the slowest days of the year, some of the wait times, think attractions like Toy Story Mania, Soarin', Space Mountain, some of the other headliners, you're still going to be experiencing wait times that could be 40 minutes, 50 minutes, even 60 minutes. In the case of Toy Story Mania, even on the slowest day of the year, which we label as a 1, you could still wait up to 90 minutes at the peak time of the day. So you have to sort of think of the crowds as a whole. So on the day where it's a 1, the wait times for the individual attractions are going to be at their lowest point, but everything's relative. So a 1 at Space Mountain is different than a 1 at the Mad Tea Party, for example. It's important to keep that in mind.
Okay, cool. Next email is from Thad from Cincinnati, Ohio. My lovely wife and I are going on a Disney cruise for 4 days in the world, and staying at Scopa Towers for our 10th anniversary in September. There are 2 things that I really want to try. One is drink around the world at Epcot, and the other, and possibly more daunting task, is to tackle the kitchen sink by myself. While thinking about this, I realized that Beaches and Cream is close to Epcot, so both of these could be knocked out of the same day. My question is, which would you recommend first, and then how long should I allow to drink around the world?
I would not do both on the same day. 11 drinks.
Terrible plan.
While you're at it.
Yeah, 11 drinks and then a kitchen sink.
Dude, the worst thing ever is beer and ice cream. They just taste awful.
But that much ice cream, I mean, that's insane.
And that much drinking.
And
Yeah, the only way I could really see it happening is if you started drinking at like 11 o'clock when World Showcase opened, and like you were done by like mid-afternoon, and then you like went to Peaches and Cream at like after Illuminations.
No, and
But even so, that's a lot.
Man, it's a ton.
If you do it, please someone bring a camera with you. You know, that would be a YouTube I'd like to see.
Right, and Thad writes, by the way, Newell, P.S. Pat from Munaki is a wimp. Next email is from someone who put their name. Don't forget, put your name and town where you're from.
Well, speaking of getting back to that, if he mentions Pat from Munaki, if you drink around the world and you do the kitchen sink, Emily and your friend Travis will get this. I mean, that's a definite baby bird. That's all I'm saying.
Whoever this person is wrote an email. Thanks for the wonderful show and all of you guys that all the work you do. I previously wrote about a trip of ours in episode 334, watching Parade in Magic Kingdom after my daughter got picked by a cast member. My job allows me at times to listen to my iPod, and I was listening to some older episodes. So some notes I jotted down as I listened. A few different topics kind of merged for me on this one. Episodes 589, 555, and 488. In our trip from episode 334, on the day we went to Epcot, we were there late. We rode Test Track at night and finished the evening with the last showing of American Adventure. It was very late, and there were only about 20 people who watched the show. As we exited the theater, it was almost eerie. We walked slowly as my daughter was very tired. A few cast members even passed us as they made their way to the front of the park, wished us a good evening. As we exited, we turned and looked around. We were in what appeared to be the last of the guests leaving for the night. We walked to our car in the parking lot, and the lot was also strangely uncrowded. It was a strange seeing that park that uncrowded and quiet like that. I'm sure you guys have been to the parks where, you know, you were maybe not the last person out of the park, but you were among the last people out and the park is really that empty. I mean, Scopa, I know you've done this many times. Can you kind of explain to our listeners a little bit of what that's like?
Well, I tell you, one of the first times was Len and myself back in, 2004 or 2003. We were in Epcot and we had dinner at Le Cellier at about 9 o'clock, but we didn't leave Le Cellier until almost past 10. And we walk out and there was just nobody. I mean, nobody. And we're thinking, let's stick around and let's see what happens. But, what happens is in the parks is, I don't know if you've seen this, Matt, or any guys, that there will be a security guard that will follow you around. And I've never been asked to leave, but, just their presence kind of will do that. But Len and I walked around Epcot and we walked out to the parking lot and there were two cars in the parking lot. I mean, all the parking lots combined, and one of them was mine. And I think that's probably the loneliness the loneliest time I've ever been at I mean, it's hard to say that at a park, but it was only about 10:30, 11 o'clock.
Wow, so that's early. Yeah.
Yeah, but I'll tell you, Fred, it was empty, and I don't know why. It was 10:30, 11 o'clock, and it might have been a little bit later than that, but there was nobody there. I mean, I don't even think the monorails were running. There was just nobody there. I mean, we walked out. You walk to where the monorail, the trams pick you up. We walked up to the parking lot. I said, Len, there's my car, and it was like a million miles away, but I knew that was my car.
Were the trams still running?
No,
they were waiting for you.
They weren't running at all. They weren't. So it might have been around 11:30. I think the park closed at 9. Yeah, I think it was 9 because this was like April. Might have been March or April. Wow. It might have been March or April. Yeah, but it wasn't that April. It wasn't like this week in April. It was like the first or second week in April, and it must have been about because our ADR was like at 9:30 or 9 o'clock or 9:15 at Le Cellier. So we probably were there at least, Len. So we were there for about an hour and a half. So we might not have left there till close to 11. But it was kind of cool. It was kind of cool.
This person also writes, regarding park etiquette, I hate the people that try to squeeze in front of small children. Those who spend time in the food line chatting, then have to stare at the menu and decide what to order. And not only have I seen strollers used like battering rams, but I was also hit in the ankle by someone on a motorized wheelchair scooter as we were walking. I pulled my daughter away in time, and the person just looked at me, never a "are you okay" or a "sorry." I agree. The thing I hate, actually, my pet peeve, is like you're waiting for the parade, right? And you get there with enough time so you get the spot you want. And then like maybe 5 minutes or so before the parade starts, someone brings, they're like, "Oh, can my kids just squeeze in over here in front of you?" And yeah, your kids can squeeze in there, and yeah, I could see over your children. But the point is it's still rude, And that just bugs me.
And then you're the jerk if you say something.
Yeah, if I say no, then I'm the jerk.
You can't say no.
Yeah.
Right.
It's like...
Yeah. Break little Jimmy's heart, why don't you, Matt?
I will.
Little Jimmy's parents should have planned ahead.
Exactly.
Here's my card. Touring plan. Yeah.
Just about to say, I need a card for...
Do you know who I am? I'm Len Testa.
Next email is from Albert from Butler, Pennsylvania. Matt, thanks for summing up my review on episode 737. Just wanted to let you guys know that Deb Wills from All Ears got a hold of me after reading my review on All-Star Vacation Homes. She put me in touch with one of the directors with All-Star Vacation Homes, and he talked to me and gave us a discount on our next stay at All-Star. Big shout out to their guest services director. Question for everyone. What is the best way or strategy you find in saving for a trip to Walt Disney World? We plan on going back in 2011, but I want to be able to save enough for a week-long trip in a moderate or even a deluxe resort. Love the show. As always, keep up the good work. Actually, let's start with Emily, since Emily, I know you live down here now, but...
I do.
But you, that feels good, doesn't it? But you obviously are fresh enough to remember what it used to be like.
Oh, yeah.
How the other half lives. So how did you save up for your trips to Walt Disney World?
I don't like to use a credit card or an ATM card very much. I pay for a lot of things in cash. And I would always use dollar bills and never use change. And I would always save my change, literally put it in a jar, and then go to my bank. I use TD Bank, so their coin counters are free. And like a week before our trip, Tom, my boyfriend, and I would count all of our change that we had saved up, and we'd always have like a couple $100 to put toward our trip.
Wow, nice.
Yeah.
Any other tips you guys have for saving money for Walt Disney World trips?
Well, I'm going to reuse one that I heard from Scopa a while back, or kind of related to that, which I think is one of the best tips I've ever heard. If you go through a travel agent, just do something where you they say when you're saving for anything, it's best to pay yourself first. If you go through a travel agent, have the travel agent sort of, bill you every payday or once a month or something, a certain amount. Like I know you need to pay a deposit when you book, sort of, initially to hold the reservation. Right. But they should be able to arrange something where you pay, like every payday, you put another $100 or $200 on your vacation, so that by the time the vacation actually comes, you've already paid a big chunk of it. I think that's a great tip.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
That's smart.
The other thing I like to do, unlike Emily, I love using credit cards. I pay them all off on time. But I use the points that I get, and I'll save the points for my next Disney World trip. So that way, I use them more for the points for like spending money. But at the same time, if you get a couple of free meals and everything like that, for me that helps pay a big part of the trip.
By the way, now that I live down here, those points are just like adding up slowly, and I have nothing to do with them.
Gonna have to force yourself to take me out to dinner one day.
Maybe not.
Solid, baby.
Vegan dinner for you.
Vegan dinner, great. Next email is from Brett in New Hampshire. Cousin Mickey doesn't talk about it on the boards. Matt's comment about never having seen the Festival of the Lion King on a recent episode got me thinking. I've never seen Fantasmic. I like to see Fantasmic, but Disney has done everything in their power to make it difficult to see it without in-depth planning. When your wife doesn't like Disney, it's hard to convince her to leave the park you are in to go to a crowded park just to wait in line for an hour to see a show. If I had planned to spend the day in Hollywood Studios, she'd complain because it was just too crowded. That's the one attraction I've never done in Disney World. Most people have that one or sometimes numerous attractions I've never done. So what are yours? All right, Fred, what's the one attraction you've never done?
Never done. Gee, I like to think that I've done everything, but I'm sure there's something I haven't done. I can't think of anything.
Newell, what about you?
I've never done Mission Space.
Okay, there's one. Scopa?
2 for Mission Space.
Never done it. Really, guys?
Well, it's
even the no spin.
I'm on a personal protest, so it's more than just the spinning.
Oh, so yeah, okay.
Yeah, he's like
taking
when
a political stance.
When he goes over there, Fred, it's like that scene from Planet of the Apes. You bastards! You blew it up.
You blew it all to hell.
Just pacing back and forth, telling people not to ride it.
They should put a little memorial stone there, like you were going to a graveyard, and just this way you can leave flowers or something.
What about you, Emily? What's one ride you haven't done before?
I've never done Rock and Roller Coaster.
What?
Goodness.
I am very afraid of it.
Emily.
Afraid?
Before,
Like, okay, like Mission Space, I don't like restraints that come like down on your shoulders.
but it's awesome.
I'm afraid of it,
Emily, after you take me out to dinner, we're going over there.
and then I'll vomit on you.
Yeah, vegan vomit. That'll be good.
There's no meat in it. It's just liquid.
I'm just afraid. I'm afraid of going upside down. I don't know.
Oh, you'll love it. I guarantee you.
No, you will love it. And it's one of those rides where you don't, like, I've seen people who didn't even know they went upside down after going on that
It's
thing.
so fast. You don't even feel
That's
it.
what I hear, but I know it's going to happen.
I still haven't seen Festival of the Lion King yet. Still waiting.
Wow, man, that's terrible.
Yeah, that doesn't go
You
upside
should
down.
see it. It's pretty cool.
I know. It's not that I don't want to see it. I just haven't
So
gotten
go.
around to it.
We're going road trip.
Next email is from Sarah Elliott from Phoenix, Arizona. My family and I are traveling to the world in October, and we've got an 8:20 a.m. reservation to the character breakfast at the Grand Floridian. We're staying at the Treehouse Villas, but will not have a car because of the cost. This will be our first time going to a character breakfast outside of a park's regular hours. We're old pros at dealing with Disney World transportation, and we're also aware of the delay that relying on buses can cause. I've seen on message boards that Disney has an early bus that travels from the resorts to the parks for the early breakfast seating, but there's conflicting information about the start time for the shuttles. Do they only start 1 hour before the park opens, or they start 1 hour before the first available seating reservation?
Yeah, so this is one of those things I think where you have to. I probably would call in advance and see. I mean, the buses are somewhat unpredictable. I know you may see some messages on message boards that say that, as a rule, they have buses an hour before. But if it was me, I wouldn't trust it. I would call.
Yeah. Well, the other thing is they have an 8:20 reservation, right? Even if the buses start an hour before, which would be 8 o'clock, that wouldn't be enough time for me, unless you're coming from like the Polynesian.
No, it wouldn't be enough time.
Yeah, I would go for it. In this case, you need a cab. Okay, good. Next email is from Clark from Grand Rapids, Michigan. During past visits to Disney, Disney has done very well in giving us the room we'd requested. But now our conspirational minds are in full gear as we prepare for our upcoming trip in October. Last year's trip, though, was the exception, and we wonder if it had anything to do with using online check-in. Could it be that the traditionalists who enjoy cast member greetings and exchange of plastic are less likely to get the rooms they've requested than the onliners? Have you any experience with this? Do you think it makes any difference? Should we call 60 Minutes? Should we call 60 Minutes? I haven't heard anything about people who do online check-in versus the traditional check-in, one way or the other, getting preferential treatment in terms of their rooms request or anything.
That sounds like a great touring plans research project. That's very interesting because it would make sense, right? Because I mean, if you request a room, half the time you're getting it because there's a cast member there dealing with you that's looking at the directory and picking a room for you. So it would make sense to me that that online is doing it in some kind of random way.
Yeah, I mean
that's interesting.
It's a good question. I mean, I haven't heard anything. I mean, I don't know if there's definitive proof one way or the other. At least there's not right now. But
check the 2012 unofficial guide.
Yeah, there you go.
Sounds like a project.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Scope, have you used online check-in yet?
No, I haven't. Nope.
I haven't used it either. Has anyone used it?
No.
No.
I guess the question is why has anyone used it? I mean, Scope, why haven't you used online check-in?
Because I never think of it.
That's a good point. I think that's probably why I haven't used it either. I just never.
It
doesn't even cross my mind. Like you know. Yeah.
I think I used it once, but I got there so late that it didn't matter which line you got in, and you still had to talk to a cast member anyway.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of. I've never really had a bad check-in experience. Maybe if I did, I would do online check-in.
I know,
more often.
Fred. I know your best check-in experience ever.
The 4 a.m. 10 Fest?
Yeah, 10 Fest. At 10 Fest, it was so cold and depressing that Fred got up with Henry and said, forget this. They had a reservation for the next day at some hotel. So they packed their stuff up, drove to the hotel at 4 a.m. because technically it was the day for check-in.
Yeah.
And they gave him the room.
We told them we were going to try to get an early check-in. We didn't say it was going to be 7 hours earlier. Yeah, we thought, well, what the heck? And yeah, sure enough. Yeah, no problem. We'll get you a room.
Even if they forced you to sleep in the lobby, it probably would have been more comfortable.
Well, it was either that or sleeping in the laundry room. So
Next email is from Chrissy from Long Island. I recently went to a trip to the world with my family, including my 4-year-old nephew, who's obsessed with dinosaurs. I was not at the park the day they went to Animal Kingdom, but my nephew obviously wanted to ride Dinosaur, and he did, and he loved it. My sister asked him after riding it if he was scared. He said he wasn't, but the dinosaurs did start to scare him. He would just roar back at them. He was fine. I thought Matt might like to try this next method the next time he's forced to ride.
that's a great idea. Great idea.
I'll keep that in mind. Thank you very much. Next email is from Frank Zintel of Robinsonville, New Jersey. I became a new listener to Walt Disney World today in preparation for my recent trip to Walt Disney World at the end of June 2010. My family had a terrific time thanks to the information in the unofficial guide and the podcast. As I was listening to the episodes, I was wondering how you go about recording the podcast. I don't think you're all in the same location, are you? Bill, do you want to give the quickie explanation as to how we record the podcast?
No.
What?
No.
It's a secret.
That was the quick version. You should hear the long version.
Basically, we just record over Skype, and we record it. I mean, it's pretty... Yes, you're correct. We're not in the same location. We just record over the internet, and through magic and voodoo, it appears in your iPods every day. My wife and I rode Expedition Everest for the first time last week. From the podcast, I learned that the Yeti doesn't move anymore. Unfortunately, we feel like we didn't see it at all. It was very dark except for a bright strobe light that silhouetted the Yeti. My wife completely missed it. We saw a more substantial view of the Yeti on the Walt Disney World TV channel. Expedition Everest was lots of fun, even if we didn't even see the real Yeti. See, that's what's wrong with the whole thing. Is someone like Frank never got to see the Yeti in its true glory, and frankly, or whatever, you get it, doesn't rides the attraction and doesn't even see the thing. Like, that's how bad it is. And Disney is delusional in thinking it's fine the way it is. You know, it'll do, but it's really terrible that they haven't fixed it. I know, Emily, you and I, we got to ride it during the Expedition Everest anniversary back in the fall, and it was fun, but it was depressing.
When I ride Maelstrom and the trolls tell you to disappear and you go backwards and you see that polar bear to your left, I like to pretend that's Everest instead. Kind of does the same thing.
Nice. Yeah, the interesting thing is, I lost my train of thought, but Fred, you want to make a quick comment about Expedition Everest?
Well, yeah, I did. I was looking at sort of the lifespan of new attractions and found some really interesting change in the wait times for Expedition Everest. If you look at about a year after they opened the attraction, it went from really, really high wait times to almost nothing, like to the 40-50 minute range now, and that coincides pretty closely with when the Yeti died. So it's kind of interesting how that attraction has really suffered in popularity.
Yeah, I mean,
compared to when it opened.
There's a chart that's on the Touring Plans blog that you can check out, but it's when opening day, it starts out around 120 minutes or so, and it kind of holds that for a little bit, but by about year one, like Fred mentioned, you're talking about now wait times closer to about in the ballpark of 40 minutes. Give it maybe 50 one day, 40 the next, 30 the next.
Yeah, these are averages. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I mean, that's a huge drop.
Huge drop.
And to put that in, again, there's a chart that really explains this very well. But like Sum of All Thrills, for instance, from opening day until today, its wait time has been pretty consistent the entire time. It's in that somewhere between 20 and 40 minutes. Toy Story Midway Mania, for instance, has been consistent in that it's between 80 and 100 minutes. So thanks, Noel. It's interesting that's got that substantial of a change. All right, Noel, we got time for our last question of the day?
Sure.
All right, last question of the day. It means I will choose 3 emails to read from. Mike Newell will then choose one to be read today. The other 2 go back to the email queue to be answered later. You ready, Mike?
Sure thing.
Your options are, did you hear that awesome tip on the live show? Second is Back to the Future.
Oh, man.
3, Oh, the Heat.
I'm going to have to go Back to the Future on this map.
All right.
Oh, he's thinking fourth dimensionally.
I am.
That's heavy, Mike.
Sorry. Great Scott.
Last email of the day is from Gerald from Palmyra, Pennsylvania. If Walt Disney World didn't exist yet, and it was going to be built today from the ground up, what would you change? Would you still put it in Orlando? Would you make monorails to all the parks, both like Tomorrowland and Future World? Any attractions belong in different parks? There's the attractions in different parks we talked. That's actually an episode we did. I forget what it was called, Misplaced Attraction, something like that. But let's start with Fred. Fred, if you were going to build Walt Disney World today, would you still put it in Orlando?
Oh, for sure. I think Central Florida was a fantastic place to build what is now Walt Disney World. If you could go back in time, I would love to see the Walt Disney's true Epcot come to life. I think that'd be a really, really cool thing to see. In terms of today's point, what I'd love to see is I think they need to have an old-fashioned steam train that goes directly from the Magic Kingdom or the TTC there all the way to the Animal Kingdom. I think that'd be cool to have like a jungle train.
What about
I think they need more park-to-park transportation.
I agree. I think the transportation options could be expanded greatly. I mean, we've all talked about, and it's been rumored a bazillion times about the monorail expanding to, Epcot or the resorts or to Cleveland, Ohio. I mean, everywhere.
The airport.
You're right. I mean, and you know what? If all these people are thinking the same thing, maybe it's a good idea. I know it's expensive, but maybe it's a good idea. What about you, Scopa? What do you think about, with doing some armchair quarterbacking here? How would you, do you like the idea of Disney World in Florida? Do you think it was a good move to put it there?
I think that it was a good idea to put it in Central Florida. I think that if they had put it anywhere south or towards the coast, I think it would have been the mistake of the ages because of all the hurricanes and everything, and I would never be able to go down because of all the hurricanes. But I think that the location is good. I think that first thing that comes to mind is it'd be nice if there was monorail transportation between the parks. I think that the other thing I was wondering if there would be some kind of a way to control the elements in the parks. I thought about, wouldn't it be nice if there was a big bubble over Epcot? But think how warm it would be in the summertime. People would fry. I think that the transportation thing is kind of big. I think that a lot of us look at what they've done and we have a tough time trying to add value to what they have. I think they put a lot of thought into everything. So
I think
good.
The one thing I would change, I know we always rag on Animal Kingdom, but I really think that Disney should have waited on Animal Kingdom and spent more time and effort and money in building up the other three parks first. Because if you think about Animal Kingdom opened in '98, and you think about all the attractions that Disney's added to the other three parks since then, and how they've really radically changed those parks and really made them into, all three of them, into much more of a complete touring experience, that I would prefer if they had done that to the extent that they had spent more time on, adding those attractions into the parks first, so that really the three parks would be in a equal standing in terms of, a full day touring experience, and then added the parks. I think a lot of people, especially, you consider where the studios were in '98 and where Animal Kingdom was even in '98, that both those parks were nowhere near finished, and they've been playing catch up ever since. So that'd be my only thing I would, looking back now, that's one thing I would change. Emily, what about you?
I'd get rid of the TTC.
You would? You prefer just direct, like Disneyland style?
It's so much easier to park at Epcot now that I drive there all the time. Like, right. I avoid parking at the Magic Kingdom ever. It's annoying when you do it. But yeah, and I think a giant dome around the whole space would be pretty awesome too. Can block out the sun like Mr. Burns.
Excellent.
Great reference. Newell, what about you?
I think what Fred said really hit the mark. Was about the original Epcot and the real vision that Walt Disney had for Epcot. That would have been something to see. That would have been unlike any theme park ever created. More than a theme park. The original Epcot was a community, and that was intended for people to live, and everything was it just was such a brilliant idea, but it would, technically probably unrealistic, but that would have been something else. If you watch some of those old films of what they had planned and what Walt Disney envisioned Epcot to be, and you're like, oh man, these are so cool.
Yeah,
It makes
so
me-
close.
Yeah.
It makes me sad to go to Epcot and just think of what could have been.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's true. I mean, Epcot is great for what it is now, but it's not the Epcot. It's just another kind of park.
Right. Well, that's going to do it for us today. I want to remind our listeners of today's sponsor, which is MEI and Mouse Fan Travel. And, last night Darth Vader came down from the planet Vulcan and told me that if I didn't use MEI and Mouse Fan Travel, he'd melt my brain. And you know what? Vader was right. It was a great idea to use them because MEI and Mouse Fan Travel is that good of a travel agency. They've got... there you go. They are the travel agency to use if you're looking for great help to plan your next trip to Walt Disney World vacation. Remember, if you put your mind to it, you can accomplish anything. And if you don't want to put your mind to it, let MEI and Mousefan Travel take care of it for you. Check them out online at mousefantravel.com. That's going to do it for us today. If you want to thank our special guests, Freddie Hiddleston and Emily Westhoff, Len Testa, Mike Scopa, Mike Newell, I'm Matt Hotchberg. We'll see you on the next show.
Judy, stupid energy.
This has been a production of Mouse World Radio.